Welcome to another offline video. For this video, we'll be watching my first round Swiss Prelims game in the All Aboard Expo 2025. To the left is RJ playing Ciri, a newer fighter from the Witcher Steel and Silver set and the newest addition to the S tier rankings, versus me, playing Sherlock, the #1 fighter ever since his release back in the Cabal and Fog set. For my first turn, I immediately send off Watson to do a ranged attack on Ciri. Ciri defends with a push to the brink against Watson's Service Revolver, meaning Ciri takes 2 damage. Push to the brink is usually regarded as Ciri's worst source card. Having it in his opening hand means it can immediately enter his discard pile and start adding to the source count. This basically means that, ironically, Ciri usually wants her worst source card in her opening hand. I immediately sent Watson to attack first turn to start putting pressure on Ciri, since it both guarantees damage and shifts fatigue initiative over to him. RJ moves Ciri to the high ground, threatening an attack, but he quickly changes his mind and places Iwara Quacks, or the Unicorn, there instead, threatening a 5 value attack with a 1 ping. But then he changes his mind again and just decides to double maneuver. I haven't played this matchup before this tournament game, and having to play it out against RJ, one of the best players in the local scene, is a bit intimidating. Still, I was using Sherlock, one of the strongest fighters in the game, so if I play things a bit slow, I should be able to win this out. One of Ciri's main strengths is her sheer flexibility, allowing the player piloting her deck to go whichever way they want by deciding what source cards to use now and later. She can't use all of them effectively, so a skilled Ciri player will decide on a strategy early on, while simultaneously still adapting to what cards she ends up drawing. RJ shows Child of the Elder Blood from his hand, and I was wondering if he was using it as a boost or as a pass, or if he would decide to just retract the action altogether. The scheme can be used even without any source cards in your discard pile, just merely as a way to pass your turn without drawing. If he uses it as a pass, this shows how he's currently planning on winning the game. RJ does a boost maneuver with Child of the Elder Blood, trying to go through his deck to find another card while also adding to his source count. I would have thought that RJ would try to play for fatigue in this matchup and maybe use the scheme as a pass. Reminder, you can use it even if you aren't triggering any of its effects, or maybe even try to use it in the late game. When he boosted with it to add to his source and didn't attack me in the same turn, it lifted some pressure from me as it implied that RJ wasn't trying to go for the fatigue win. Sherlock is generally pretty hard to fatigue because of his schemes, but I wasn't ready to try and test it against Ciri in a high pressure setting for the first time. Watson goes to attack Unicorn with Study Methods, which the Unicorn fully defends with Searching Strike. Because he won the combat, he gets to search through his deck and find the push to the brink. I'm attacking here because it gives me a turn I don't have to draw, which is called a pass. If anything, Searching Strike means Ciri is 1 card closer to fatigue. Ciri can also play a very good fatigue game between 2 Unicorn allies and 2 Child of the Elder Blood, as well as a lot of potential recursion through looping Lady of Space and Time. However, I am still playing Sherlock, and if push come to shove, I have the tools needed to stop those outs. Unicorn moves closer to Watson, but Ciri does as well by boosting with a Channel the Source. Ciri attacks Watson, but I end up feinting another Channel the Source. Finding feint this early on is great for me, because once Ciri reaches 7 source, she becomes unfeintable. Watson attacks Ciri with an Education Never Ends into Push to the Brink. Because Watson is adjacent and on the high ground, this deals 1 damage to Ciri and means Ciri draws 1 more card. Since Ciri is also at 2 source, this means Watson takes 1 ping damage in return. The camera angle gets a bit weird as the top part of the board is cut off. This was the first video I recorded at this event, and I made sure not to make the same mistake for the other games. The Ciri and Unicorn duo go up closer, and Unicorn attacks Watson. The card turns out to be Bane of the Aen Elle into an Education Never Ends, and RJ decides to deal the 1 ping damage to Watson. This does also mean I get to draw 2 cards. As Ciri is positioned against Watson on a low ground, I take the chance to hit with a 6 value service revolver into a blink, dealing 2 damage. An arrow on the screen is showing where Sherlock currently is, with Watson just to the right of him near the unicorn. It's a bit unclear to me what Ciri's win condition is in this matchup, but it feels like she either tries to go for fatigue or go full aggro with unicorn ally from the start of the game. Right now, it seems that Ciri is trying to do something in between, which is good for me since it doesn't seem to be working very well just yet. RJ attacks with Lion Cub of Sintra into Fixed Point in a Changing Age. While Lion Cub is a 4 and deals 1 damage, Fixed Point ends up healing 1 for a net total of 0 damage. I am still full HP nearly halfway through the game, and I just need to find all of my auto damage and land a few good hits to kill Ciri. However, I still have to be cautious as Ciri can suddenly win games by throwing an endless barrage of 7 value attacks. I attack with a deduce strategy into a push to the brink, meaning we both deal 1 damage to each other. I was trying to look for a blink with its boost value of 1 to deal 3. Generally, the deduce strategy on defense against Ciri isn't that great since it can't stop Ziriel and Lion Cub from changing values because of the defender resolves first rule. As a reminder, I'm positioned over here next to Ciri while Watson is there to the left, with Sherlock body blocking for Watson. We end up coming down from there later on, don't worry. Unicorn attacks Sherlock. I play Elementary and Call of 4, but it turns out to be a Searching Strike that would have been a blank tree anyways. If you haven't noticed, this is one of the first time that Ciri or Unicorn has actually attacked Sherlock himself, as they've been focusing on Watson the entire game. At this point, I had a confirmed suspicion in my hand, but I really wanted to land it against Mind of the Aen Elle to deal 4 damage. So, I was waiting for an Eliminate the Impossible to make sure. I attack with the game as a foot into a Ziriel, which deals 1 damage through. Unfortunately, it rips out a counterpunch, meaning I have 2 less guaranteed damage for the rest of the game. Ciri and Unicorn maneuver and pin Watson, with the Huaraquax attacking with a Searching Strike into what is just a blank 3 value defense. While I think killing Watson is the right idea since he can be a powerful body blocking machine, I think at this point he has survived way too long to still try and hyper-focus on him. It doesn't matter anyway since I maneuver away and play Administer Aid, unpinning Watson and healing the 1 damage I was dealt earlier. Playing for fatigue in this map is especially powerful since it can force melee opponents to approach in a low ground like this. Ciri ends up walking away, but I don't mind since I'm up on deck at this point and still have all my confirms and eliminates. This means that eventually she will have to approach me. One of the reasons why Sherlock is so powerful is because he has an absurd amount of schemes that don't make him draw cards. For example, 3 confirm suspicions and 2 eliminate the impossibles means that Sherlock can spend at least 5 turns not drawing cards, while simultaneously still doing something to the opponent. Since most of his effects are from schemes and not limited on zone, Sherlock is usually running away and trying to kill his opponent both through pure ping damage and fatigue if needed. Ciri maneuver boost and has Unicorn attack Watson. Might of the Aen Elle deals 2 damage over a feint, which isn't too bad. Watson is left with 3 HP, but this is still great for me because he has absorbed so much pressure and attacks throughout the game. Truth be told, I was very lucky this game as my deck refused to brick and kept giving me a healthy distribution of schemes, attacks, and versatiles all game. One of Sherlock's biggest weakness is if he ends up with a handful of schemes, which is common since he has so many of them. I double maneuver and separate my hero and sidekick. Relentlessly and viciously, RJ decides to pin Watson for the second time this game. I don't think he's long for this world. I weigh my options. At this point, I think I don't fully mind if Watson dies because he served his purpose at keeping me alive until the endgame. However, spending more defenses on him and keeping him alive just a bit longer means that he can continue functioning as a body blocker. I don't want to spend any defenses that I don't need to spend on him, and the Lion Cub is guaranteed to kill Watson by dealing 4 damage over any 3 value defenses he might be able to play. Ciri is about fully ramped up at this point, but I have still yet to use the bulk of my hand disruptions. This late into the game, I have a clearer picture of what other cards are still left in Ciri's hand. This means that if Ciri were to attack, I would probably take, while I would defend against Unicorn. I have confirmed suspicions in my hand, and I check RJ's discard pile to see which numbers are most likely to be in his hand. I say 2, and end up ripping out a Zerael and dealing 2 damage. Unicorn attacks with the might of the Aen Elle into Watson, dropping him down to 1 HP. Miraculously, he's still alive. At this point, me and RJ were having a laugh about how resilient Watson was being this game, as he has absorbed all of the pressure this game and was somehow still alive. After this game, RJ told me that he did have a 7 to throw at this point, but didn't want to waste it on Watson. I think it was a good call, but I also don't think you should have been going so hard after Watson at this point anymore anyways. I play another confirmed suspicion and get rid of a Lion Cub, dealing 2 more damage. Then, I attack with a 6 value the game is afoot into a parry, dealing another 3 damage. Remember that Sherlock can't be cancelled, so I successfully disengage. Ciri maneuvers and ends right below the central high ground. I take the opportunity and go to the high ground and attack with a 4 value deduce strategy. Defender resolves first, meaning Zerael turns into a 4, then deduce strategy resolves and turns it into a 2, meaning I deal 2 damage. Zerael rips out a feint, which is at this point already worthless. RJ then attacks me with the Lady of Space and Time, and I defend with a counter punch I've had for most of the game to finish it. Sherlock wins with full HP, a perfect game if taking and healing 1 damage counts. From this one experience, the matchup feels very Sherlock favored since he can just wait until the late game before using all his hand disruptions. Playing it this way can completely cancel Ciri's late game power. Maybe going full aggro Ciri drawing every turn is the only way to win the matchup. We'll have to test it again soon. I assumed you were okay with it.
Minsan nga, it's a fun Easter egg. Like, titignan mo yung sarili mo. Oh, I can see yourselves.
What is that? I mean, alright. 3, 2, 1, go.
Oh, like that? No,
Ito na lang cards yan.
May ganun. Sinong character kaya magbigay ng 20 yan? Una ka na!